Well, it's a beautiful, sunshiny 29th day of March 2006. It's not even Easter yet. We're standing outside. We could stand outside in our shirt sleeves and survive today. It's into mid to high 50s. And I don't know about you, Mike Dragoon, but I love it, baby.
Well, I can take it.
Not bad. We're out in the country. I mean, we are in the backside of Sciota up here, aren't we?
Yes.
What's the name? Has this road got a name?
The Gardner Road. It's actually in the town of Altona.
It is in the town of Altona. That shows you. Turn me around a few times, and I'll be in the woods till next spring. But I know we turned at D&D in Sciota, and I found Calvin, and he led me here. So he's led me astray more than once. Actually, before a few days ago, Mike, I had no idea that this farm was even up here, but it's been here for a long time.
Yes. You'll probably get more information on that with my father there later on.
But this date, the farm, does it predate your dad? Was his dad here too?
Yes, correct.
No kidding. So it goes back, what, maybe 100 years? I wonder.
Oh, definitely.
Or more?
Yeah, I would believe so.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So you've lived your whole life here?
Me? Yes.
Of course. Well, we're actually, the place, the sugar bush is called what, Fox Hill Maple?
Correct.
But we want to take a look around the farm before we head back in the boonies. You're going to take us back to where you're sugaring down, huh?
It's approximately 1 mile and 7/10.
Is it really? And your dad's back there working right now?
No, he's in the house there.
Oh, he is. He's watching you sweat a little bit.
He's the one who started this.
Well, we're going to get him here. We moved in here and we see a lot of older structures, and then we looked up here and we see something that's right state of the art. When did you build that new barn?
5 years ago. And there's a lot to it, more than meets the eye. All the lumber was sawed off our own sawmill. All the logs were cut here on this farm. And my sister, that's a school teacher, her and her son actually put all the rafters together. Maybe not all, but
most of them.
Real close.
What's her name?
Kathy Blondo. She works at Ross's Point Elementary.
Oh, no kidding. Well, you know, this is like the typical older farm where you got a whole bunch of things going on. Not only have you got a dairy farm, you got a nice new barn, but you got a sawmill where that your dad operates, right?
Yep. My father had a misfortune of having a stroke, and he can still actually operate that sawmill.
Isn't that amazing? And plus the sugar bush, which probably goes back as far as the farm does, right? As long as the farm was here. No?
My grandfather boiled syrup. My father never actually did. My grandfather, they needed money and cut off his sugar bush.
Ah.
And my father always worked in the woods, but he never forgot about the maples. And when I was old enough, it was kind of left up to me if I wanted to be interested in starting over. And that's where it began.
So you help him with it?
I do most of it.
Do you really? And he'll take 90% of the credit? Is that what you're telling me?
He does not know actually one end of that evaporator from the other, believe it or not. The tree part, he can tell you everything, but
I'm anxious to see it because we've seen so many operations, and you know, as a kid growing up around Messina and down around Moira, I worked in a lot of sugar bushes back in the old days when everything was hand done with buckets and stuff. But a few people still use buckets. You don't, do you? Do you use?
No. That's how I got weaned on this.
Did you?
Put up 1,700 buckets my first year out of high school. And that
no wonder
was
you didn't turn around and keep on going.
They showed me this thing called tubing, and that was all she wrote.
Well, you know, it's very interesting because I came up here on Route 22. For those people who are not familiar with this part of the North Country, you drive north on 22 till you get to Sciota. You make a left and then a quick right, and here you are, about 1.5 miles down the road. But I saw tons and tons of tubing in the woods all the way up here. So a lot of people tap a few trees, and a few people tap a lot of trees. There are actually quite a few people in this business, either just for their own enjoyment or to sell it commercially. And this is good weather for it.
On a day like today, I mean,
you can't
fishing
beat it.
season ain't open yet. This is nice.
That's
to be out, you know, outside. It's an outdoor kind of thing, except for the boiling.
Well, there's a lot to be said for outdoor endeavors, and I admire people who live on the land. We've talked a lot about farms and farmers on this program down through the years. We're going to take a look at that barn of yours, if you don't mind, and we're going to go to the sugar bush. What do you say?
Yeah, we can make our way around.
Well, all right, let's do it. Well, we did step inside. Mike, what's in here?
This would be the milk house and all the utensils used for milking.
This is far different from the way it used to be when I was hefting milk cans, I'll tell you that.
Well, I did it backwards long enough. Those surge pails, they no longer... I got one for a waste pail. That's the only one left.
Oh gosh, there it is over in the corner. Boy, does that bring back memories, huh?
Yes, it does.
Well, there were two major manufacturers, Surge and what, De La Val?
Correct.
I remember those from the 1940s and the early 1950s. Wow. Those are memories. Whole different ball game now. There's people who haven't been inside a working dairy farm in a few years should stop in a place like this just to look it over. How many milk cows do you milk?
46 right at the time being. I got 8 more to freshen. I'll be milking over 50. I usually average 40, but we're going to try a small-time expansion.
Well,
See
you
if
know,
it works.
it's hard to survive for the small-time farmer. I know you had to swallow a few times really hard when you decided to build this place, right?
Wow, milk was at $17 a hundred. The day I pounded the last nail, it dropped to 10.
Makes you want to go out back and just keep walking
I
in the
think
woods.
somebody was watching me.
Oh, gosh. But you have to do it. What do you think about some of these guys that have over 1,000 cows? Some of these monster farms are incredible, aren't they?
It's a big overhead.
Yeah. Can
To
you
a lot
imagine?
of people that have to be, there every day, and
Yeah.
they have to really commit themselves.
Well, talk about committing yourself. You've decided to commit yourself for another 20 years or so you pretty much had to do this operation if you wanted to survive here.
Yeah, for some reason my age was catching up with me, and
Oh, boy,
things were
listen to this.
quite so easy.
Funny when young people say their age is catching up to them. Anyway, Mike, you've done it, and here you are, and you're going to stick with it. And we'll take a look inside the barn, okay?
Yeah, there's a few animals in there. There's one thing that I did this year that I've never been able to do, and that's my cows went outside every day this year.
Wow.
Not at night, but during the day they went out to eat.
Isn't that amazing? Are they right there in the morning, or do you have to have a dog that goes and gets them?
No, they'll go out in the morning during the summer here, but they just go out during the day to eat, and get some
I see what you
exercise.
mean. And that's not a bad idea, is it?
Yeah. Usually Mother Nature don't allow me to do that, but this
Yeah.
year's been.
It's been fabulous. Oh, yeah. For the people who are watching this when we're at 70, 80 degrees out, you got to know how much we appreciate this kind of weather on the 29th day of March. It's not bad for everybody, but it's wonderful for people who are trying to make syrup, right?
We've had pretty good weather. Can't speak for the other sugar makers, but the weather's been freezing and it's been running for the last, what have we got now? 4 or 5 days in a row here.
Yeah, we like it.
Really good.
We like it. It's good for everybody. Well, let's take a look inside the barn. What do you say? Well, it's a little bit different from other farms, but you're doing things the way you want to do it here, right, Mike?
Yeah, to fit the purpose, I guess.
You built a big barn, but you kept your number of milking cows about the same, right?
Yep, I sure did. I can milk up to 64 if I would like to.
So you have, the best of all worlds here. You told me you let your cows out to graze all summer. A lot of farmers don't do that, but now they're saying it's good to let your cows out. You knew that all along, didn't you?
Well, as far as health-wise, of course it takes away from your milk production, possibly a little bit. As far as walking outside to feed themselves, but it is healthier for the animal.
And when they're grazing outside, as you said before, that's free money.
Yes, because I have enough land here where I do not have to feed other than grain and a little cornmeal during the summer. That's it.
That's great. Yeah, I can see the best of all worlds. I don't get to go inside many dairy barns these days because those days for me working on the farm are passed by way over 50 years. But I can see that you've got a lot of different things going, some the same and some the past. But the milking systems, the cows are right in here. They walk out this door across from where Calvin is, right?
Correct.
And then you got a silo on the other end?
Just a hay barn.
Hay barn.
And I made a little choice in venue here. I put a wood stove on the end for my hot water in my milk house.
Oh,
and
come
I
on.
heat both houses.
That's not a bad idea either.
I bring the wood in with a skid steer, cut it up in front of the stove, and throw it in.
And that's outdoors, right? Is that outside or is it in the barn?
In there.
Inside?
It was supposed to be for hay, but I can build another one for hay.
Oh, you can?
I'm not about to put wood in the stove in the pouring rain.
I like this guy. He's a very, very practical guy. Can we take a look inside there? I want to see what the other end looks like.
Most certainly can, and you'll be able to get a look at how the rafters were made from this barn. And
Yeah. All right, let's take a walk. What do you say? Well, we're out in the hay barn part. It's very interesting how you have the rafter set up here. How you built this.
Yeah, well, I said earlier, my sister was involved in doing that with her oldest son. It was like a project for him during the summer. I had cut most of the wood in the spring, and my father had sawed it, and a few other people helped out, here and there. We did all the lumber, but Francis Menard actually did the building of it.
Yeah. This how many years
That
ago
was
now? Did
5.
you build? Oh, 5 years ago. Well, it seems to be working out okay. I know you're happy you did it.
Oh.
Even though you did a little bit of sweating and figuring, didn't you?
It came out pretty good as far as, I invested in a skid steer.
Yeah.
And I made it so those round bales could be moved in there with that. I didn't care too much about jumping through a hay mow anymore with them square bales.
I can understand that. I've done that a few years too.
The equipment is out there to do it this way, and it's, it's faster. I mean, I still got a family life and all that. Sometimes I want to get out of this barn and be to a ball game.
I know what you mean. It's pretty hard to balance life. When you work on a farm, you don't always have a lot of spare time for the fun stuff. But let's talk about your family a little bit. We were talking about your family before the camera started again. Let's mention your kids. Give them a little shot here, because they know what farm life is about.
Well, as I said, my wife is just as much a part of this as I am. I mean, she's right here by my side when she's not here all the time because she keeps a full-time job as a nurse. But during the summer there, she'll help me put the cows in the morning. She might sneak back to bed before she has to get the kids up for school. But even in the vegetable business, she loves that.
Really?
And I've even got her boiling. And this year she took over
that's
pretty good for me there. I come home and do chores and she'll stay with my hired man.
Oh, that's great. So how many kids do you have?
2 boys and 2 girls. Benny, the oldest, he'll be 16 in June.
Wow.
Kimmy's the next one. Calvin's probably caught them 2 on tape quite a few
I
times.
think he mentioned that earlier, yeah.
And Kayla, the next girl, and Nicholas will be the boy. He's going to be 8.
Well, now it's time for family lessons, because I talk about this all the time. Too many kids spend too much time inside the house without a little fresh air. They don't know what physical work is all about, and yet your family has managed to balance all of that. So they do come out and help you quite often.
Well, they're here during sugaring. They're here during sweet corn. My hired man actually takes all deer season off. That's his thing in life. And they're all playing basketball at that time, but there's always one of them here to give me a hand. And if it ain't them, my wife's here.
Yeah. I'm sure people who live many people who watch this program have been brought up on farms or around farms, but if we were to show this in a metropolitan area, people would have no clue what it's like to live on a farm. And you don't have much of a clue what it's like to live in a big city. You wouldn't like that either, would you, Mike?
I don't believe so. My kids went to a Knicks game with Dr. Frost. And
our buddy.
My youngest daughter was scared, living daylights.
Really? Was she really?
Yeah.
Too many people, too much crazy excitement. It's
yes.
the traffic of the big cities.
She wanted to come home.
When I lived on the island for 4 years, I traveled a lot into the city just for fun, but I was young and foolish in those days. Now I'm old and foolish, but I don't feel like driving in that kind of traffic. Wouldn't mind going to a city once in a while, but I don't even like to drive in Montreal anymore. I like the country life.
Yeah, I don't know much film
Some
you're
people
going to
don't like all the smells on the farm, but I love the smells on the farm. It brings back a lot of pleasant memories for me. And I think you've done a heck of a job right here.
When we go up this road after to the sugar shanty, I think you'll get an idea why I'm in love with it.
Yeah, well, you know, this is a beautiful part of the country we live in, and today when the sun is shining, it just spotlights it even more. How many acres on this farm, do you know offhand?
There's 1,100 in this chunk right here, and over on the Dragoon Road we own another. There's 1,300 altogether. I don't know.
Well, that's a fairly good size piece of property.
Yes, it's mostly woods, you know, as far as that goes. I forget just exactly how many tillable, but
Yeah.
you know, enough to take care of 40 head of milking cows.
Well, that's great. So what do you say we take a ride to the sugar bush and see what that looks like?
Okay.
I can't wait.
The sun's shining. Let's go
All
outside.
right, let's go do it. Well, we took a long ride back into the woods. I feel like Hansel and Gretel, like we wanted to throw out some breadcrumbs to find our way back. We are in the deep woods. How far is it from your place back here to the sugar shack?
1 mile and 7/10.
Is it really? Except that we were going really slow, couple of soft spots. You wouldn't want to come in here with a car that was very low to the ground.
Not at the present time.
I saw you put it in four-wheel drive once or twice, Mike. Come on. So is this where you've always done the sugaring up in here?
Actually, no. We'll probably take a ride where my grandfather had done it.
No kidding.
Listen up, but this is where I have.
I listened to your father in the truck coming up here. He was sitting in the front seat with you. Calvin and I were in the back of the truck. Your dad's name's Weldon, right?
Correct.
And it's kind of neat when a family still gets a chance to walk on and ride on and travel around on the same property that's been in their family for, we don't even know how many years, but he said his grandfather lived here, right?
Yeah. And my grandmother.
Lived on this property, and as we drove up through the woods, he was showing us the foundations of the old homesteads, and that's kind of cool.
It's a little bit before my time.
Yeah, but it's kind of neat to have those kind of memories attached to it. You know, the land almost oozes the history of your whole family. So hopefully when we get to chat with him a little bit later, he'll give us a little more of the background. But he was telling us a lot of things that happened when he was a boy and long before he was born, right on this property. That's cool for me.
Well, I heard a couple stories that he told you that I haven't heard before.
Really?
So.
Oh, we'll get him wound. We'll do our best to get him wound up when we get inside and we smell the sap and smell the maple syrup, and you know. So the sugaring always didn't take place here, but it has recently, right? You said you told me you've tapped about 5,000 trees?
Yeah, right here. But there's plenty more.
Well, you know, we've talked to a lot of people who were in this business who were just so devastated after the ice storm that all they did was cry for 3 days. Then they went out to try to figure out what they could save.
Yeah, I don't know exactly, but the distance we just came up this road, I think it was somewhere all the way to the other end. It was 10 days just opening it up after the ice storm.
Just we never forget the ice storm, and Calvin and I always find a way to bring it up because it was so absolutely devastating for people who lived in the cities and towns. Never mind people who rely on the woods and their farms. It's horrible.
Yes, with 40 cow dairy, a person doesn't strictly survive on that today. I mean, you'll see the sugaring is a little part of my income.
Yeah. We should mention before that, or we meet your father, that he suffered a stroke how long ago?
I think it's probably 4 years now.
It's amazing. He's walking slow, but he's a big, strong guy, and I know he's done some hard work in his lifetime as you have, and he'll have some real good stories for us to tell. Now, this sugaring operation, we should tell people who aren't familiar with it, that has to go 24 hours a day, right?
Sometimes, yeah.
And you don't have electricity up here. You don't have an oil-fired evaporator, do you?
No.
Wood-fired. That's what all this wood is like from over here, right?
Yeah, that takes up a good share of the time in the spring and the summer.
Yeah.
Because that ain't like what the wood stove I got down to the house, which can burn green wood. This has to be dry.
Yeah. But you know, it's like the other things inside your barn that we saw. We see the best of all worlds. Some of the old stuff, some of the new stuff, right?
Yep.
Well, is this the same old evaporator you've had for a long time, or is this something?
It's the first one I started with.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's a 6x16. Now, actually, when this went in here, see, I graduated in 78. I think it was 81. That was one of the most modern evaporators and vacuum systems at that time.
No kidding.
I'm backwards now.
Well, you know what? Sometimes it's okay to be backwards. Sometimes I like the old ways. I love the feel of this place. I'm glad I don't have to walk back, though, and I'm glad you got four-wheel drive in your truck. I should mention to people who might be seeing this sometime after March 29th, 2006. This is a little wet here now, but we've had a very, very dry late winter and early spring, haven't we?
Yes, so far.
Yeah, well, I hear them talking on television and radio and the newspapers lately about the threat of fires. I imagine you've seen it a lot worse than this at this time of year in the past.
Well, one of the stories my father might tell you about that I haven't seen, that during hunting season, which is normally a wet time of year, the hunting season was closed. I was well before my time.
Wow, no kidding.
It was closed.
You know, the weather has changed. They talk about global warming, and I'm beginning to take it seriously, as a lot of people are. Things are so different now than they were even when you were a kid, and you're a young guy.
Well, I can remember the snowstorms.
Well,
you know, I haven't seen them in years, but
you know, I'm sure you can remember when there was 2 or 3 feet of snow at this time of year, right here at this spot.
Oh yeah, well, definitely.
Yeah. And
the year I did it with buckets, that's where I got my lesson.
Oh, really?
It was about 4 foot.
So you did use some buckets when you started, right?
Yeah, I put up 1,700
oh man.
first year, and like I said, it was time for a change.
Altogether different ball game. Well, I'm so delighted to be here in this piece of property, and I can feel the history of it, and I'm sure your dad will want to talk more about it. Do you keep somebody up here all the time? Somebody? Does your hired man have to stay here, or?
No.
No, you just come up here and...
No, we trust the tractor and the generator. If the sap's running, if we've had enough, we'll go home. Let it, say if there ain't enough sap, we'll go home for a couple hours and rest. Once we think there's enough up here to start boiling, we'll come back. No, everything's pretty much, trustworthy.
You know, we've watched, gosh, I can't remember what they were selling good syrup for when I was a kid, but it was a lot less than now. Some people are charging, I heard, up to 40 bucks for a gallon of syrup now.
Oh, you look at some of these books, like Gander Mountain and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
They break it down even to a larger denomination.
Do they? For a pint?
Yeah.
But anyway, that's what a lot of the guys are getting around in this area. Some in the 30s, but up to 40 this year. And it has to do with so many factors. Everything's so much more expensive this year.
Oh, the fuel oil is the main concern.
Yeah.
They're putting out most of them have 2 guns on the front and 20 gallons an hour going through that evaporator.
Are you kidding me? 20 gallons an hour?
Yes, anywhere from
And I'm griping and complaining about my furnace this year?
But don't forget now, these reverse osmosis machines are bringing that sugar content up to a higher level. But
that's true.
It's still 20 gallons an hour going through that
You're
evaporator.
still putting fuel in that tractor too, right?
Yeah, that's costing me about 60 a day.
Is it really?
Yeah, she'll burn about 15 to 20 gallons on a
So
10
how often do you have to fill the tank?
We can sneak by usually once.
Really?
She'll go 10 to 12 hours.
The farmer's work is never done, especially during this time of year. Something else I want to mention before we go in, you do a big corn business, sweet corn business in the summertime on this farm.
Yeah, there's about 10 or 12 acres that gets planted in the beginning of May and gets picked by hand, usually starting around the 15th to 20th of July.
The whole family get involved with that too?
Yes.
I thought so. But not only sweet corn, and your sweet corn here is legendary, it's the good stuff, but you sell, you said a few red potatoes?
Yeah, that's when they're small. People don't understand that I'm actually spoiled, because when I want some fresh vegetables, I can just go get them. Anybody who has their own garden realizes the same thing, but there's a totally different taste. I mean, I think the biggest one is cabbage,
Really?
a fresh cabbage. As
Right.
far as getting it out of a supermarket and go and pick it, it's totally different. To me, it is, anyways.
That's funny. I just wrote a column for next week about tomatoes. And there's nothing like, you don't like
I
tomatoes?
can't grow them fast enough to come with the sweet corn. I just can't do it.
I finally found some big boy tomato seeds, and I haven't seen them in years. They're a hybrid that came around when I was a young kid for planting my first garden, 1949 or so. The hybrid big boy tomato came, and I had never seen a tomato like that in my life. And I've grown them a few times over the years and finally found some this year. I can't wait to see what they look like. But I love fresh tomatoes, cucumbers. You pick a lot of beans too.
Yeah, I've managed to find a lot of empty pails. That is something where kids automatically get hungry or they're tired. But yeah, between me and my hired man, I know I've kept track and I've picked over a ton before.
You gotta
And
be
it's
kidding
always
me.
right there.
I guess I won't come see you in the summertime, that's for sure.
You know, I have sore knees.
It's great. There's nothing like fresh produce, and I'm glad you do that. What do you say we go inside, look at this sugar bush?
Yeah.
All right. Mike, we're taking a look at how you have your power takeoff working off your tractor here. That's a handy rig, isn't it?
Well, it's been handy in the past, and it's something to farm with cattle that need water and stuff like that.
It
It's a
really came in
necessity.
handy during the ice storm, right?
I had it hooked up the night before we lost our power and everything. I don't know if it was what took place, but I had it hooked up and ready to go.
You were ready to go?
But the
so-
warning was pretty accurate.
Yeah. So you didn't miss a milking then, right?
No, it took me a little while to get it hooked up to the pole, but I was milking by 7 o'clock that morning.
Did you have to use, you didn't use any other kind of generators than just this, right?
Nope, that's all I had. I had a child in the house that was only, let me see, 6 months old.
Oh, no kidding, a little baby.
We had the power was there. You know, there was more concerns than just the cows at that time.
Yeah. Well, there was a lot of concerns for everybody, but that's been running really good since then, huh? Without too many major repairs?
That is not the original one that was in the ice storm, because I do this every year. You know, I've wore one out.
Have you really?
Yeah.
Well, it gets
I
a
mean,
lot
it
of
could be
hours.
fixed, but
Gets a lot of hours on it, huh?
yeah.
So that runs continuously 24 hours a day up here or not?
Well, just while the sap's running.
Yeah. But I mean,
You know,
during the
if we
season.
yeah. You know, if it freezes at night, everything's shut off.
The season for making maple syrup varies every year. Some years it's terrible, and some years it's great. You told me as we were walking in here, and by the way, the smell in here is absolutely out of this world. A whole panorama of movies are going in my head, remembering all the days of stoking the wood fires under the evaporators out in the country. I love it. But you told me that the season, they didn't expect the trees to be doing this good after the ice storm by now in 2006.
Well, I'm used to making 1,000 gallons, and I haven't done it since the ice storm.
Really? You think you might this year?
Oh, well, it's too early to tell.
It is.
It's a Mother Nature thing, so
You just can't tell how long you'll be boiling then this year, can you?
no.
Because, well, like I said, we're at the almost on the last day of March, and sometimes what's the longest you've ever gone?
25th of April.
Really?
Yeah. Made 1,500 gallons that year.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Oh wow!
I have made 1,500.
You should be that lucky this year, but it ain't gonna happen, is it?
Last year I only made 400.
Oh man!
So it's an unpredictable.
So can you explain? Let me get on this other side of you.
Calvin might want to get a look at them firing that evaporator.
Just tell us a little bit about what we're looking at, Mike.
Well, here's our fuel.
You don't have to lift weights when you go home from here after doing that all day.
No.
Can you imagine how
that's
much?
one good thing about being dry. It's lighter.
Yeah. Can you imagine how many sticks of wood you've handled in your lifetime? Lots and lots and lots.
Yeah. Takes about a quarter to 4 foot to make a 30-gallon barrel of syrup.
Does it really?
A little more than that. Oh, here we go. That fell off the other day. And of course, in front of the camera, here we go again.
You've got to do it in front of the camera. That's called Murphy's Law, in case you didn't know it. Whatever can go wrong will go wrong.
You have to be careful they don't get burnt.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty hot fire in there, right?
Yeah.
All right, we're out back of the sugar house. What do we see here?
Well, our sugar sharing head is located by the road, so for access. Up above this, you'll see all the small tubing, but it'll leave the small tubing in these main lines. And we're at the back of the building here.
So it all comes into these black lines.
Yep, everything comes to the shanty.
Is there any difference between the blue tubing and other colors, or is there a reason you use blue tubing?
No, not really.
No. Is it all blue? Do you use all
No, they
blue?
have green. They have.
I've seen other colors. I just wondered if there's any reason for it.
Well, some people prefer a rib type, and it depends, I guess.
Now, do you have to tap? Do you have to go around and tap every tree every year?
Yeah. That hole has to be fresh.
It does.
Yeah. And see, we used to have a pill we used to put in them, but they've banned it. And
oh, really?
so now your tree growth or your natural bacteria will start to heal that tree up. So you have to guess this as well as possible as far as when to tap that tree, and that there's no more tapping in January because that tree's got a tendency it's going to heal up a little sooner than normal.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
See, I wasn't aware of that, when you do that and how you do it. Do you use a gas-powered auger, or how does that work?
Yep, they have the little Tanakas or ones like that. And a lot of these, I think mine's only a 16-volt hand drill.
Oh, that's what you use, a hand drill. That makes sense.
You have your little things, and I think the 16
Have a couple
volt.
extra batteries with you?
Yeah, you don't go all day on one battery. No, you can do about 150 or so, depending on how cold it is outside too, because that'll take some of the snap out of the battery too.
I can remember back in the 40s and early 50s when the guy that ran the sugar bush I worked in had 5,000 trees, and I mentioned this before, he's a big tall guy. So we'd be walking through the woods, and he'd have this gasoline-powered engine on his back with a flexible tube, and a drill bit on the end. And I'd try to follow him, and he'd drill the holes, and I was putting the spouts in. And boy, at the end of the day, I was ready for supper and a nap, I'll tell you that. But it's everything's different these days. So you got to tap every one of those trees. How many on each tree? 2?
That goes according to the size
Size of the tree?
Yeah, 12 inches one, and I forget exactly what. Every 4 inches another tap after that.
No kidding.
Don't quote me on that one.
I heard your dad saying when we were in the truck coming up here that you tap a little higher with tubing than you do than you did in the old days when you tapped by hand. If you're using tubing, you're a little higher for gravity, or what's that?
Well, you'll have your little knolls in the woods.
Yeah.
And you want a level grade getting to this destination. And this is all done, it's not done to perfection, but it has to be fairly level for the vacuum to work at its maximum.
Is there's a lot of gravity involved?
Yeah, the tree will put out, I believe it's 2 pounds of pressure on its own.
No kidding. Now, see, I'm getting an education. 2 pounds of pressure from the tree.
Yeah, and of course you can put right up around 20 if you want to on these main lines.
So, but it doesn't all run by gravity. You got a suction pump, you say, that pumps it, or what? How does that work?
Yeah. Well, of course, 27 pounds of vacuum is what that'll put out, but
yeah,
you're going to have little small leaks and fittings, things like that.
You have to go check the lines every once in a while, or?
That's a never-ending job.
Is it really? I can imagine that's not very much fun. Just keep going back and back and back, huh?
A year like this, no snow though, you can make a lot of ground.
Well, that's true. Yeah, if you had 2 feet of snow in here, it'd be a real pain.
You don't get anybody offering to go.
Yeah. Well, you don't know how many miles of tubing there would be involved, for example, in 5,000 trees, but it's a lot of it.
Not often yet, no.
Yeah. Well, it's very interesting, I'm sure, for people who've never seen this operation to find out what happens in all these 1, 2, You got about four
main lines here.
4 main lines that come together.
There's approximately around 1,000 on each one or so, a little better.
Now, is there a holding tank outside here? What's this up on the timbers over behind Calvin?
My evaporator is fed by gravity, and that approximately holds 2,500 gallons. I have a pump inside off the bottom of what holds the air, the vacuum itself.
Right.
And it'll put it up there. And after that, it comes in by gravity. All evaporators are fed by gravity.
But then you have a valve on that you open and close to keep
a lot of valves in there.
Are there really?
A lot of valves, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And these more modern machines have it even more.
Even more, yeah. Well, like I say, you got some of the old ways and some of the new ways going here, but it sure smells like good maple syrup to me.
Oh, our quality is still right up there.
I love it. Well, let's go inside again, okay, Mike? All right, now we're inside the shack again, and we're taking a look at, what do we see back here in the corner, Mike?
Now that's actually the vacuum system. It's water cooled. You'll see the water, it'll constantly circulate so the pump don't get too hot.
Well, that looks like it might have been around for a while, that system too. Is that pretty old?
Oh, that's the original system that I started with here.
Is it really?
Yeah, you're looking at I got to do some figuring here, but well over 25 years.
Okay, it's still going strong, huh?
Oh yeah, you know, that's just water cooled. There's not too much other than replacing the fins inside.
Well, that's where the pipe, that's where all the sap comes in, right?
Yep.
And what's this green tank over in the corner?
Okay, that's where it's stored. I don't know how much of that Calvin can probably get, but inside there's 2 balls. One that it'll come up and it'll trip. Right now it's released. I can see that pin on top.
Yeah, let's walk over a little closer. Go ahead and talk.
Right now it's pumping. That's a brand new pump. I had to go buy that yesterday.
Oh, you did, huh?
There's a couple gallons of syrup there. Okay, she just shut off. Now, I don't know if your camera will pick up inside there, Calvin, to see the sap coming in. It's running pretty good today.
Is it really good?
Yeah.
Well, you know, we're talking temperatures in the high 50s, probably high 57, 58 degrees up here in Sciota. Actually, you said this is the town of Altona?
Yep.
Yep. And up on the wall, there's a gauge. What does that tell you?
That's what kind of vacuum I'm carrying. Now, there's a trick to reading that. Now, when the sap's flowing real good, and them pipes are, you know, half full of sap, your vacuum will go up because that space is taken up.
I see.
The sap ain't running, and it's nothing but air, you know. You're getting the holes and more chance to leak. So your vacuum, got some more lines to fix. I'm carrying around 15 right now.
So you like that? How much do you like to carry?
Oh, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay, so it comes out, that pump puts it into that tank outside, is that what happens?
Yep.
The big tank outside.
That holds 2,500 gallons. Actually, it's all it is an old milk tank off a truck.
I can tell.
There's no longer any more 2,500 gallon milk truck tanks around.
No.
So most of the sugar makers have scarfed them up.
Yeah, whatever it takes.
It's all stainless steel, easy to keep clean.
That runs by gravity and comes in here.
Yep, along this wall. There's a valve outside if I have to shut it off. And Calvin gets around to that tube going straight up in the air. That's my gauge. I can tell how much sap was in that tank without having to climb up there and see.
No kidding.
Yeah, that's a little difficult to see, but sometimes when the float is fluctuating in the evaporator, it'll make it move up and down so you can see it. Or sometimes when this pump is emptying, when it first hits that tank, it'll make it, and you can see it jiggling in there. Some people put a little ball in there so they can see it better.
You're used to looking at it.
I'm worried about it getting in the evaporator.
Ah, so that's what that's for up there. Does it got a plug in the end, or is it open up?
It's high enough where it can't come out.
It can't get all the way up there?
No.
You got that all figured out, huh?
Yeah. When I first open that tank in the morning, in order to fill that pipe up, sometimes it'll shoot out the top.
Just give you a little thrill for a minute.
Well, if you're not used to hearing that sound, you'll say, what's going on?
Oh, yeah.
All right, over here will be the back of the evaporator. This float right directly in front of Calvin will keep my level. And I can see the level in that glass
Right
over
over
there.
Yeah, I see it.
And you see that little black mark underneath it, about a quarter of an inch, half an inch? It should actually be right there. But with a wood fire, I can't keep everything,
Exactly the same.
you know, because it fluctuates. It's not like oil. And what I'll do, of course I'm getting a break today, I'll come back and adjust that flow. And all that's got to do with the adjustment of the flow is how much pressure in that tank.
Sure.
If it's half full, right? When it gets down to quarter, I might lower that flow a little more. And we have all the hot water we want here because of 100 feet of copper tubing inside the top of that pan. And when this cold sap comes in through that copper pipe, the steam is hitting it and turning it back to water. And there's a catch pan underneath, and that's all the hot water I need up here to do whatever.
Whatever you need to do, and there it is. And boy, it's hot too.
Yeah, I think it's coming off there around 190.
Is it really?
I think so, something like that.
That's way too hot for a good shower, so I'll wait till I get home.
Keep things clean.
Yeah. So is this? Are there a lot of much larger evaporators, or is this a pretty common size?
This is probably the biggest.
Is it really?
Most common, yeah.
Do you have any idea how many people do sugaring within, let's say, 50 miles of where we're standing? Seems to me like there's a bunch.
You start looking at all the little homeowners that like to make their own. Oh yeah, there's more out there than realize. I mean, one like this, you can see steam quite a ways away, but the little guy in his backyard, you don't see that.
Well, a lot of people, and this was true of, you know, we had 5 or 6 sugar maples in our front yard when I was a kid. Always tapped those trees, and my mother had a kerosene stove in the back room, and that's where all the boiling down did, you know. Yeah. Right there. There are more than ways to...
before you put up the new wallpaper in the spring.
Yeah, you got that right. Steam it right off. But there's an actual organization of maple syrup people too, right?
Yep, and that is a growing thing too. You have your New York State Maple Queen, which is, you know, it's quite an organization.
And there's always a little friendly competition going on between New York State and the Green Mountain State of Vermont. We could tell a little bit of that spilling over in the way your dad was talking coming up here in the truck. I love it.
I'll let him do that. Some things around the farm he does, and some things I do.
You know, there's always been a little controversy on labeling maple syrup, because those of us who like pure maple syrup, we don't want the Mickey Mouse kind, if you know what I mean. So for a while they were catching some people putting improper labels on, saying it was 100% pure maple syrup when it wasn't. And that's not fair to guys like you, is it?
No, I wouldn't believe not.
Yeah,
no.
They've done it because there are a lot of ways to make maple flavored syrup, and you see all kinds of stuff in the stores. But for those people who are watching this program, I'm sure like you and me and Calvin, they want the real thing.
Well, if anybody's had it before, they should pick up the difference.
Oh, there's no question about it. How many of those good pancake breakfasts have Calvin and I gone to? Some of the commercial breakfasts where they just eat the biggest stack you want and put all the maple syrup and all the real butter on it. That's what life is all about.
I was milking the cows this morning, and of course I knew you were coming. But I got to thinking about it. How much is a pound of butter today?
I have no idea. My wife picks the butter out. I eat real butter because I'm on the Atkins diet.
Pound for pound, you know, you don't go out and buy a 10-gallon pound tub of butter.
No.
But the price ain't much different.
Yeah, think about it.
You know, you don't buy it in that quantity.
Yeah, that's a good point that you made. Good point. It's been a North Country staple here, not only this state and Vermont, but other states as well, for a long time. I guess tapping maple trees here in New York State's got to go way back to at least the early 1800s. Because I know some of these farms have been tapping. Yours is this probably they've tapped trees on this farm for maybe 125 years, maybe, or more.
Almost certainly.
Or more of that.
Yeah.
As soon as people discovered the sap taste. I like the taste of the sap coming right out of the tree. But the other end, the maple sugar. You know, you just make the syrup. You don't make any of the candy or anything, do you?
We've experimented with it, but there you go again with some more equipment.
Yeah.
You know, and
let the others
got my
make the
fingers
sugar.
sweating and enough things right at the time being. That takes a lot of time and real.
Oh yeah. Well, there's one thing we were talking about coming up here when Calvin didn't have the camera going. And that has to do with the different grades of maple syrup. Talk about that a little bit for those people who may not know.
One of the major factors is your sugar content right from the tree, which varies, you know, from tree to tree. I mean, you can go from 1.5 probably up to over 4. Right straight from the tree, you can probably hit 4%.
That number has to do with sugar content?
Yep, amount of sugar right from the tree. And of course, boiling it with these ROs, you can get it in here at 6, probably up to, I think it's 11 is their cutoff point. Then it has to be boiled. I'm not exactly sure on that, but the less boiling time, the lighter the syrup's going to be. The flavor's still going to be there and everything, but you know, less you cook something, the less color it's going to have.
I'm sure the average person watching this has seen different grades, different colors. Some, it's called, what, amber?
You got your fancy, which is real clear. I can't do that. That's one thing I have a problem with. My trees don't test very well. So you're taking more gallons of syrup, more cooking, in order to get your final result. I can make medium amber, then you got dark amber, which is all grade A syrup, table syrup. You get another week from now, very possibility you won't see too much more of that made.
Really?
And they'll go to a grade B, then to a grade C, which is commercial syrup.
Does that all have to be labeled that way in a store, for example?
Yes, your grade A table syrup does. Yeah. You have your fancy, medium amber, and your dark amber.
Well, that's a whole separate ball game. You have to put your own labels on. Does it say Fox Hill on it?
Yep.
You see, those of us who live around the Plattsburgh area, we think about Fox Hill as the south end of Plattsburgh. So I didn't know is this whole area called Fox Hill?
Wow, that was actually originated with my grandfather on my father's side.
No kidding.
Yeah, they called him the Fox.
Oh, they called him the Fox.
Yes.
Well, that pins it down.
If I remember correctly, that's how it got started.
I did research as to why they called Fox Hill, and there were a lot of different explanations, but now we know why they call this Fox Hill.
Yeah, they always had a sign on the mailbox. As a kid, I can remember it, Fox Hill.
No kidding.
A picture of a fox.
Oh, that's kind of neat. So, Fox Hill.
So, of course, when the maple production started, we just...
All right. Well, let's get on the other side and see what we can see, okay, Mike?
Yes, that's where the goodies will be coming out.
All right, let's explain the process a little bit. Calvin says there's always some folks out there who may never have seen sap coming out of the tree. It looks like water.
No, clear as water.
Yeah, real clear, but nice and sweet. If they haven't tasted sap coming out of a tree, maybe they should sometime. But the whole process, the whole point is to boil that water off, right?
Correct.
And that's what this evaporator is here for, and that's what the word means. So explain what's happening here. What are we looking at?
All right, well, we've seen it coming in there, that back flow. It actually comes in here through 100 feet of copper pipe. Then it comes into this back corner. And what is in there is actually what they call flues. They go up and down. My father just said there's actually 500 square feet of boiling capacity.
No kidding.
Like he's going in between these trays in there.
Yeah, we got a wood fire in the other end. We've seen them loading that. You got fans underneath that sort of force the heat back here, the fire back here, right?
Yep. It keeps that fire right up there. And of course, the faster you can make it, the faster you can get out of here.
It's a little more difficult when you're burning wood than it is, for example, oil-fired evaporator, right?
Yeah, your heat doesn't stay the same.
It's not.
When they open them doors, the fire actually almost go right down to nothing.
Oh yeah.
But the fans, once you shut the door, it'll pick it right back up quick.
Now we got 2 pipes here, and that's steam.
Yep. This one's separate for this one. This is all one unit back here, what they call the flues. You know, the flue pan. The steam will go up that one.
Steam there, and then this is where the regular heat goes back from the fire, right? In the back, this chimney here.
Yeah. That's quite a stovepipe right there.
That's a heck of a stovepipe. Did you put that in?
That's our second one on that part.
Really?
We learned an issue there. Take it down every year so the water don't, and cap it off. You'll notice you don't see those stacks on most sugar shanties during the summer. They take them down. They're expensive to replace.
I can understand that. Everything about it is expensive to replace, isn't it?
I believe that was $1,000.
Yeah, well, you said you put a new pump in yesterday, and you were figuring the cost of that in terms of the number of gallons of syrup you had to sell to pay for it. I can totally understand. So how much of this is, how much checking do you have to do when this process starts? You have to keep looking in there, looking at gauges. What do you have to do?
Yeah. You've seen your level over there.
Right.
Over here, you're going to have to do it more or less by eye. Okay. You can. We'll go over there and we'll.
Sure, let's do it. You explain to our viewers what they're looking at when they get here.
When it comes out of them flues, it goes back and forth through these pans. There's a little cut wedge.
Yes.
So it can transport itself around. And right here is one of the places we can see our level. Very seldom boils out here. Once in a while it will. But you stick this in there. First you'll get a little closer and you can kind of see your level.
Yep, I can see it down there.
And this, you'll come across here into this pan. This one gets changed every day. So that's the downfall of this evaporator. It's very nice and very easy to run because you're not switching directions at any time like the liter evaporators, and they're making them so that they're just fantastic now. And it's like going buying a new car.
Oh, sure.
You see them all, and you see these new ones. They're nice. I might possibly get syrup back here. Okay?
Yep.
But very seldom. And if I do get close to syrup, it'll thin itself out before I get in trouble. When I start to draw off, say it's real close to those two pans, this is not quite so concentrated. It'll thin it out. I don't really have to worry about it, but it kind of makes you want to keep an eye on it.
I bet you it does, yeah. What's this white thing over there? Is that a temperature gauge or what is that?
That's our first thing that we'll watch when it gets to syrup. That's the start. This here, of course, you've seen a lot of the shows or whatever TV commercials where it webs off the bottom of that. That actually is just to go around and see where the syrup is in the pan. Especially with wood, you get a variation of heat in different spots.
I never thought of that.
So this is, if you've done it enough, you can tell how much it webs in each spot. If it looks thicker in the direction it should be going, you don't worry. Because that thermometer is always the same in that spot. If you've done it enough, it's not an issue.
The finished product comes out here?
Yep.
Right here. I want Calvin to get where you are so he can see the fire in there in case there's any question in anybody's mind as to how hot that baby is right in there.
Yeah. You do not fire this evaporator with change or car keys in your pocket.
You read the Bible story about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fiery furnace, baby? You got it right there.
Now see, they just fired this, and you'll watch this all come up. We'll start from the back, and well, this one will come. And then it's really neat, and once you understand it, you know, you can tell how well your fire is doing. And it does just the opposite when the fire starts to get low. It'll start to go down.
I can tell just how much this means to you. This is your baby every year, isn't it?
I call it my big Kel. I got a brother-in-law who used to laugh at me. Now he just bought a farm with a sugar bush on it.
Oh, he did?
And he loves it.
Well, it's a good thing to do, and it certainly is a wonderful North Country tradition. How long does it take Can you, how, does it take minutes, hours to go from sap to syrup
Okay.
in this evaporator?
When I fill this evaporator with raw sap, when I first start boiling for the season, it takes me approximately 4 hours to get a final product.
4 hours.
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't
You're
aware
going
of
from
that.
raw sap all the way down to the final product. But after that, of course, there you go again with the wood part. I get on this probably 4 gallons every half hour. You know, it might come 2 gallons and 2 gallons, or, you know, with that wood, it's just totally unpredictable.
So many variable factors, and not the least of which is Mother Nature on a given year to know how good you're going to do. But I know you pay a lot of attention to it. You got an education right from childhood doing this, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Every year you learn a little more.
There's something about me, the outdoors is probably,
Well,
you know, where I'd like to be.
I can tell the acorn didn't fall very far from the tree. I met your father, I met both of you for the first time today, but I met your father in the truck coming up here, and there's a rich history, a generational history with your family that goes back a long, long time here. But I bet you your great-grandfather, if he saw this evaporator, he'd be scratching his head a little bit, wouldn't he, huh?
Yeah, they've come a long ways.
Come a long, long ways. The old-fashioned sugar shacks looked a lot different than they do these days. Is there anything else here inside here that we haven't talked about, Mike?
Well, we didn't really finish this. Once this gets the syrup, this is what your final check would be.
Yeah.
And this is what the buyers would use to see if you have the right density in your syrup.
Ah,
What I would do is when I'm drawing off, I'd fill this container and drop this in. If that first red mark is sitting out of right on top of the syrup, that's where it's supposed to be.
aha.
So that's what the buyers would use. That's your last final on the money.
And you do that every time yourself, or can you tell
Once
just
you've done
by
it once for the day, you might check it every 3 draws.
Oh, is that it?
You know, just the weather, the sap boils at a different temperature every day, according to the barometric reading.
That's true. There's, like I said, a lot of
You have to-
factors.
yeah, you have to check. No, that's the only problem. You'll notice it with this. If it's dropped a degree or went up a degree, you know, you can blend it as you boil. Draw off a little light or let it get a little heavy. You know, you'll learn that just from.
You better know your business.
Also, a cold test, 65 degrees. Now, when buyers come to buy it, most generally, you know, 65 degrees out, then that second line would be showing. That second line's showing when you're on 212 degrees, you're in trouble.
Let's hope it never happens. So do you sell all your syrup by the gallon, or do you sell some of it by the barrel, or what?
That's bulk.
Both?
Bulk, yeah.
You do?
I would say I sell probably a little over 200 gallons by the gallon, and the rest of
So
the.
you don't have like a roadside stand or anything where you sell it?
We'll sell it with our sweet corn.
Oh, you will?
We have it there on the stand, yeah.
Well, people love it all year round. I know a lot of people at Christmas time, they want to have maple syrup shipped to their friends and relatives who live in places where they don't have maple trees.
It's not like a gallon of milk where you buy a gallon every 2 days.
No, not exactly.
A quart or half gallon does the people for the year.
Yeah,
sometimes.
absolutely. So things are going along here pretty much normally today, and we caught you right at the height of the season, right, Mike?
I would say we got plenty of season left. I mean, we talked on the way in here about the buds on the trees. We don't want to see warm weather, but the potential for the season going on is, we don't know yet.
This kind of warming and reflective atmosphere that we have in the weather right now in late March 2006 is very interesting, because you might expect, even though we have temperatures approaching 60 degrees toward the end of the month, you might expect that the temperatures would stay warm overnight, but they don't, and that's good for you. When the temperatures go down below freezing after the sun goes down, that's good when you're boiling maple syrup, right?
That's the key to it. There's one thing that, me personally anyways, if I see it coming with a south wind,
Really?
Oh, I dread to see it because it usually doesn't produce as well as a nice northwest wind. There's something about Mother Nature, how she does that. I've seen a snowstorm come from the east and the sap running all over the place. Why?
Isn't that amazing? I would never guess that the wind would have anything to do with it, but you would know. When the old farmers lick their finger and see which way the wind blows, they aren't kidding. You got to know things like that. And I might mention that in 2006, we have seen some of the craziest wind, especially in late winter and early spring this year, that I've seen in a long time. We had gusts a few weeks ago up to 78 miles an hour.
Yeah. After that, there you go again with the ice storm. And I love to cut wood. I love to be in that sugar bush. When the wind's blowing, I got a tendency to find something else to do.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're looking up a whole lot, right? Isn't that great? Anything else we should see, Mike, before we leave this area?
Mark here, my hired man, he just took a peek at the thermometer. And, of course, he's been boiling here for the last 2.5 hours for me. He'll know what's what, and I just took a peek. I wanted to see if I could get it to web for you, but
what does that mean, web?
How close it is to syrup.
Oh, I see.
I mean, you'll see it on the TV commercials and the sugar shanties, how they always stick their hand in there.
Hometown cable isn't always like the commercials that you see on television, because what you see is what you get.
Just a fine tinge. When that syrup, that'll fall off in a whole sheet.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
And that's how I judge it with that wood fire when I go around to check. When I know it's close to syrup, I take probably one spin around. But if I see it falling off there faster in that second pan, I keep a better eye on it.
Well, I guess you learn to tell what the signs are after you've done it a few times, especially when your livelihood depends on it coming out right. You're gonna try not to screw it up too much, right?
Well, when I first started, I had somebody that showed me pretty much what to do. But of course, my father, the way he is, burn them, we'll get another one. You're gonna learn.
Well, you did. You got your bath by fire, so to speak, huh?
Ain't burned one yet, but my wife was boiling for me the other day, and the black pan got a little bit low on her. She got her first-hand experience.
Did she really?
How you dance around here.
Is that called Panic City?
You open the doors, you shut the fans, and you pull the floats. Then you look where the problem is.
Oh, is that what you do? Oh boy!
No, you can't mess around. You got to get that to see where.
You got to do it real fast too,
stick
right?
in and oh yes.
Well, we got a great education here today. I, for one,
Calvin, you might want to. Real hot fire. This will boil right over. Now they make a foam that they put in the back pan, but that'll keep this from boiling over. All you do is drop a little dab of Crisco oil.
Is it that? Come on.
Watch that.
Look at that.
Anything with fat in it. You can use milk, pork.
Isn't that amazing? Just a few drops, huh? Look at that go down.
Because it can make a nice mess if it boils over.
I imagine it can.
And when it hits the sides, it was.
Oh yeah.
It don't smell like good syrup.
No, I can understand that. So every now and again, you just put a little drop or two in there.
Depends on the fire. Now don't forget, burning with this wood is dirtier as far as cleaning the machine after. The work ain't just done here.
I can tell.
I have to get inside of there, I get on my back, and we pull a brush back and forth through them flues back there. All it is a little white film.
You gotta be doing
every day.
If I ever got in there, you'd have to dial 911 so fast. No kidding.
Again, for the camera here, this is my
claustrophobia. Mark, how you doing?
I'm okay.
I'm okay too. That's quite a process. How long have you been up here helping? Long time?
Yeah, a long time.
You've been here a day, enough to raise a sweat in here.
Yeah.
I got my little spring jacket on here, and I feel like I got a temperature of about 147 right now. Are you from this area? Do you live right near here?
Just down the road a little ways.
What's your last name, Mark?
Drago.
Well, of course. Are you guys kissing cousins or what?
No, actually, we're not related that
Families
close
aren't?
either.
Really?
No, fifth, sixth cousin.
Are you? Back there. I guess we're all related if you want to go back to Adam and Eve. Do you like doing this work?
Oh yeah.
It's a little struggle. We watched you before with another helper trying to get the door back on. That had to be a little warm there.
It gets hot sometimes.
Well, you learn all kinds of new language when that stuff like that happens, right?
That was the only thing I was worried about this little interview. How well that was going to go.
Yeah, we've had that. We've had that before. That's funny. We were doing a program on a construction site a couple of weeks ago. I don't even say hell and damn in public, or at least on television often, but I noticed I used the word hell in an interview I was doing, but I hope what people understood the context. I was talking with a bunch of construction guys. Well, this is really a neat process. We have actually visited several sugar houses over the years. Calvin has been doing this kind of program since way back in the early 1980s, and he and I have done some of them different operations here in the North Country. And you're right. You know, almost every farm has a little sugar bush.
Yeah.
Some of it do.
It's a slow time of the year for anybody probably milking less than 100 cows.
Yeah. So you find, do you have an automatic market for your maple syrup, or do you have to go sweating that out and calling people? And
No, the buyers will come
they're
around.
there.
Yeah. I mean, they all kind of get together, and the price is pretty much the same.
Because maple syrup, you know, the ability for people to like maple syrup and want it will be here long after you and I are gone.
Yeah.
So there'll always be a market, I think, for most of the maple syrup you can boil, right?
As long as the maple trees and not too many ice storms come along.
Yeah. Well, we're thankful that they came back as good as they did. We've looked at the trees here and elsewhere, and I don't mind telling you, I don't know much about maple trees. Well, we did take a ride right after that ice storm, and I almost cried right along with some of the other guys who have really, really big sugar bushes, because they never thought they'd be where they are today.
No, and one thing, in the way I like to do things is, if you noticed on the way up, the young growths, that I've took time in the spring when it's too muddy to work in the woods or too, windy, I just go around thinning a few of these. Personal satisfaction. Be there for the next person that comes along. And it looks nice if I do it right.
It does look good, and it's not a process that changes overnight. You have to be figuring for the next guy 20, 30 years down the line. It takes a long time for a maple seed to grow into a tree that'll bear sap, right?
Yes, and like I said, if you do it right, keep enough distance between trees. The foliage is what puts the sugar and the glucose, into the roots. And the more foliage you have, of course, more of this process will go on. And you leave those trees with enough room.
That makes
Those
perfect
are the kind
sense.
of trees you want.
It makes perfect sense when you explain it that way, but it's not something the average layman would think of. I would never think of that.
Well, that's why I cut and thinned as much of my sugar bush as I did this year. The trees were just 75 feet in the air without a limb. That's not the principal type of sugar maple you want.
Well, I remember after the ice storm, Calvin does too, the experts coming in saying some of those trees would never recover. And here we are in 2006, and the ice storm was in 1998, and I think you're doing pretty darn good right now.
The discouraging part's gone. Because like I said, I cut wood, and I can see the growth rings on these stumps after, and the wood that is left standing and healthy. It is just literally amazing how fast it's growing. I mean, you can't say amazing, maybe a quarter inch. When the normal growth is a 32nd.
Yeah, think about it.
It's not like they're exploding or nothing, but you start talking them factors and...
Well, you know what you pointed out, if you haven't pointed out anything else to us today, you pointed out the importance of paying attention to what nature does, especially if you're going to work off the land like you do. You better know what's going on outside, what's growing, what's not growing, when to tap the trees and when not to, because if you don't, you're lost.
Well, my father, he's worked in the woods all his life. When I was up there thinning, of course, he finds us with his four-wheeler, right? you're not taking enough trees. And I'm kind of feeling guilty. I don't want to get carried away.
Yeah.
But that is a guess on your own personal. We'll see how good 5 years from now.
Sometimes you pay your money and take your choice, and apparently you've made some pretty good choices. I really appreciate it. Let's move out of this area and find a spot where it's a little bit cooler. All right?
Yeah, we could probably grab that and let him take over.
Well, we couldn't drive away without talking to the guy that's responsible for us being here today, Larry Matat. How are you?
Pretty good, you?
You called Calvin, said you got to come up to the Sugar Bush.
Oh yeah, awful nice people.
This is a really, really great experience. What's your connection with this?
Oh, I started hunting up here about 10 years ago. Me and Weldon pretty much hang around together all the time.
He's a good guy.
Don't believe anything he says.
He just coming up here, he was telling us how his family's lived on this property for generations.
Yeah.
Not many people can say that. I mean, a lot of people, they move every few years in their lifetime, but how many people stay on the same property, can take you up on this road 1.7 miles and show you where the foundation of their grandfather's house was?
Right, well he wants to take you down and show you some of that. He's got a lot of stuff he can show you. It's beautiful up here.
He's almost as big a BS artist as I am.
You get to know him, you'll learn that.
Do you live right nearby here, Larry?
Down in Shazy, Honeymoore's Corners.
And you work with these guys every day or what?
I've got my own little business and I come up and help the boys, I like that up here.
There's nothing like sugaring, is it?
No.
It's really great. Well, I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but you weren't getting away without saying hello anyway.
Oh, thank you very much.
Best of everything to you, Larry.
Same to
See you later. Well, we had to talk to Weldon, the patriarch of this family, before we leave and a little bit on the way back in the truck. This is a real special spot, isn't it?
It is.
I love it up in here.
My grandson, he's taken down everything that I know and keeping history going.
No kidding. I did not know that. I'd love to see it. Is he writing it up?
Well, he's taking pieces by piece, and he's starting to. And I want him to go through all the old deeds.
Oh yeah, that's so many people forget to do that, and after you're gone, who's going to know that? That's wonderful.
I brought them to Joe Laverando because I transferred all the property to the boy.
Yeah.
Before I go, I have it settled, and. He got a kick out of those deeds. He said, my God, he'd read where the Lucy's there. One brother hired the other brother to go to war. He got killed. When he got back, it was will to him, but he was already dead.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
And a lot of the old deeds were handwritten too. It's hard to read them sometimes.
I know it.
It's hard to know where the property lines are sometimes.
But it goes way back to the Jerrys. And the first one to settle before the Jerrys was the Angels.
But you told me coming up here something that I was really shocked and surprised, that it was V.S. Jerry, Vincent S. Jerry's grandfather?
Yes. Now, my grandmother was a Jerry.
That was the connection, huh?
Yeah. There was 5 girls. They were all school teachers.
No kidding.
Yeah. My grandmother was a music teacher. They used to come up there to the farm, take piano lessons, and Louisbert Gilbert's wife when she was a little girl.
Well, you were telling me about, was it your grandmother that took care of other kids, raised other kids?
Yeah, the orphans, they'd bring them from New York City. And on the train, when they used to go through Sciota, and the brothers, the religious brothers, used to bring them up here and drop them off.
No kidding. Now, what time period are we talking about? The 20s, 30s?
Well, you must have watched the movie on when they did that. No, that'd be way before 30s. I would say I'll be around 1900.
No kidding. And they bring the orphans up from New York City.
Because there's the cemetery down there. One of them is at least 100 if he was living.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. There's only 2 of them buried. That's Jacob Romano. He was a nurse at the hospital. And Peter Rolando, I don't know if you ever heard of him.
Nope.
and I don't know the rest of the names. of
Well,
them.
your grandparents, how many of these kids did they raise? Did you
Five.
Five.
Five. Yeah.
And they never forgot, did they? You told me one
Oh,
case,
no.
one case where there was a problem, and one of them came up here and built a house. What was that all about?
She was, they had burnt out, and she wrote one of them boys a letter.
In
telling
Washington
them-
or New York or
Oh, no, he was in Washington.
Washington.
D.C., working. And he came out because he had money at that time, built her a brand new home, saved enough money to go back.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. And
What a wonderful story that was.
he's right here in the Catholic cemetery. The stone is there. And
It's fun to look through the old cemeteries, isn't it?
my dad, when I was young, he took me through all his ancestors, and I had an interest in that. And I know you do.
Oh, I love it. I love to look old cemeteries. People think my wife and I are crazy. We'll go to a town we've never been to. And we'll ask them where the oldest cemetery is, and we'll go look and see what we can see.
Did you ever go on the Ridge Road where that cemetery is? He must know where it is.
Where Calvin lives, is there a cemetery up near you?
Your cousins own it.
Your cousin,
McRae Road?
On the McRae Road, maybe.
It's from the college going towards
Oh, yeah. Water cemetery.
on the right.
The water
The
cemetery.
water cemetery, yeah.
There's where I found the angels and the stones.
Really?
Yeah, the angels and savages. Now the savages settled back here. Family name.
That's amazing. But I've said it several times since we've been here. How neat it must be for you to live on this property all your life, to have your son living here now, and to know that this is where your ancestors settled. We don't even know when. You can't even figure out what year they first came here.
My wife, well, she lived where it was a little more populated, and after we got married, she seemed to love it as much as I did.
Can't do any better than that.
She's been dead a year, and I'm lost every day.
I bet you are.
Because she was my shadow. And she'd be here today standing up next to that releaser with a clock that's still on the wall.
What's she really?
Timing it, how fast. Hours at a time. I've seen her sitting there all night when the sap was running. One night that, see where it's hooked onto the big tank there?
Oh, yeah.
That valve broke off and the sap was putting you full. I run out there and I made a plug.
Did you really?
Drove.
Drove a plug in?
Oh, man, was I wet.
I can picture that. That's more sap than you ever wanted that time. You showed us some things you're going to show us on the way back, some wonderful foundations and things, and we're going to take a ride back, and we're going to chat on the way back, okay?
You know, something I'd like to show you is the kilns up here. The charcoal kilns.
Oh, they're all through here.
Yeah, and the forester told me why they built it there is because if you know, west is all uphill. And they drew that with horses, so they...
Well, think about it.
I didn't think about it until they explained it to me.
It's a great part of this North Country history, all those charcoal kilns all the way down through there. Well, someday we'll have to come back. You're going to have to be around for another 30 years, you know,
Yeah,
if you don't mind.
because up here, I remember my father cutting hay. There was a meadow. There's trees in there.
That's what you get for living to a ripe old age. We're going to get in the truck and head back, and we'll chat on the way, okay?
All right.
Okay, well. Boy, you took me off the beaten path again there. We're back in the woods. This is still all part of your property, right?
Yeah.
So what are we looking at here? We see all kinds of stuff here.
Well,
This is a beautiful place.
I hope that they don't tax him to death.
Yeah. It's difficult.
Do you
isn't it?
know what? There's 420 acres up further from the Shanty,
Oh, really?
and it joins us. And I bought it from the county for $350. What do you think it's assessed for today?
Not a clue.
$70,000.
No kidding.
Yeah, and you know, I didn't pay any attention. They kept raising the assessment, So I went down to Plattsburgh and I said, I'm getting curious where that lane is, because I'm starting to pay a lot of money. Well, I pulled down this big map. It's somewhere in this square. That's from 191 to the Woods Falls Road. It's in the middle. How the hell can you assess here? You don't even know where it is.
Oh, isn't that a riot?
And all I got's a piece of paper like that.
To see what it is, sure.
What county?
Well, who lived up here? I see a foundation behind Calvin there.
That's Irene Waitman.
Is it really?
Yeah,
And that was the house there.
yeah. And they raised 7 or 8 kids there.
No kidding.
And my mother said she used to walk across and they'd play with the kids back and forth.
No kidding.
Yeah.
And then you said there was an evaporator up here?
Yeah,
did you say?
see them in the brush there?
Over here in the, oh, right over here.
Yeah. That was what my father's.
Was it really?
And now when I was back about 17, 18 years old, it used to make him awful sick to make syrup.
No kidding.
And my mother said, I wish you boys would go up there and start cutting that sugar bush. That's all she had to say. And you know, I met him. This is the Waitman Road going down.
Yeah.
And it comes out pretty near the house. And I met my dad. He says, my boy, go ahead, do what you're doing, but you're going to live to regret it. You know, 17 years old, joke. But
got a long time to live.
I never forgot those words, and I'm sorry.
Isn't that amazing? That was a long time ago.
Yeah, yeah.
So this was all pasture land down in here, right?
Most of it was meadows.
Meadows.
Right out to the hard road.
And how far is that from here?
A mile and 40 rods from that fence.
No kidding.
Yeah, 191. Now see, those Nova Scotia refugee shacks
Right.
were all the same 420 acre lots.
Oh, yeah.
And it was same way from 191 this way, and the same way to Miners Line on the other side. The flat rock.
Yeah. Yeah, this is it's a very historical area for a lot of reasons. It's geologically very interesting here, but it's just so much fun for me to come up here and see you and have you reflect on some of your memories from your childhood.
Now, there's nothing in that book, that bootlegging bit, and there's a lot of history with that.
I bet you there is.
Frank Company, and I got my name Weldon because the other officer was Weldon Cheatham.
Oh, no kidding.
That's where I got my name, and it's in the book. That part is about Frank Company. And he used to help with my dad all the time, and he used to call him Turkey Neck.
Okay.
Because those guys served quite a bit of time because they were custom men.
Oh, sure.
And they were letting them fellows through.
That's an important part of our North Country history back during the Prohibition days, huh?
Now my Uncle Al's is near the Catholic Church. You can still see the Dragoon Guards. 10-12 Cadillacs in there.
Yeah, isn't that great? Memories, yeah. Calvin's done some shows on the old Prohibition days.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to hop in the truck and we're going to head back, okay?
All right.
Thanks for chatting with us. We're back at the old homestead here. We want a fur piece in the back 40 or the back 90 or the back 200. Ted, you were just telling Calvin before we started the camera again, Weldon, you think there's 17 or 19 farms?
Deeds, yeah.
Deeds to this property?
They weren't all farms, so
Yeah.
pastures and
Pieces of land,
Yeah.
homesteads.
Yeah.
We saw, I don't know how many different foundations and hand-dug wells and old evaporators.
If we'd have went another mile, I could have showed you a lot more further up.
Isn't it amazing? And now you say, after you pieced it all together, it's pretty square?
Yeah. Well, no, it's longer than it is
Well,
wide.
at least it's a rectangle.
Yeah. At the county office, I don't know, but
They know enough to charge you for your taxes, I'll tell you that. Listen, you guys, I want to thank you both for inviting us up here today. Mike, this has been so much fun.
Well, I'm glad you came. I've enjoyed it. I've heard a couple stories my father ain't told me yet.
Well, you see, you learn stuff. You stick around this guy long enough and you'll learn maybe some stuff you didn't want to know before we get through. It's good to tell this story because this involves your whole lifetime and your parents and their parents and a lot of things, you know? Just a lot of good memories for you. A lot of hard work.
I just hope my grandson keeps up with the
Well, I think that's a good idea.
history and
Yeah, because you've heard a bit of history now, and this, Calvin will give you a copy of this program, and this will be history that your great-great-great-grandchildren will get a chance to look at someday.
yeah.
And there are a lot of our viewers across this wonderful North Country who've never seen this piece of property and may never get a chance to see it in person. But we've learned a lot today about your family, about other family, about people who live around here, right up in Altona, Sciota.
You know, the Skidoo's got a trail, well, you notice the signs,
Yeah.
all the way up through. And after the ice storm, every once in a while I get a call. Is the road open yet? Oh,
Isn't that amazing?
they wouldn't come help.
No, that's right. And it took, how long did you say, 17 days?
No, I forget. What was it take? Ma had it all written down.
You did.
How many days?
How long it took to get the road open again?
Oh, God almighty. No, we got a movie on that.
Oh, you did? You took?
Yeah, my daughter. And we'd lose the road. We'd lose the road.
Couldn't even find it. That's like after the hurricanes where people can't find out where their own neighborhoods are.
He's got 2 daughters.
You got 2 daughters and you didn't thank your other sister. You better do that
I
right
got
now.
My baby sister, I can't forget her. She ain't shy to get her hands dirty around here either.
What's her name?
Lisa.
Lisa's been up
Lisa
here a lot.
Millers.
She was tapping trees this year, as a matter of
Oh,
fact.
she spends the day here and there.
You don't do
She ain't forgot how to do it.
Selling corn by the roadside, maybe.
Oh, yeah. She gives us a hand whenever she can.
That's great. Well, it's time for us to wrap up this saga of this family, and I want to thank both of you so much for inviting us up here today so that the eyes of Calvin's hometown cable camera can find out what it's like back here where the good people where the good people live.
I don't know how good they are.
This is the salt. This is the salt of the earth. I'll tell you that. And I want to thank you both for inviting us up here today. The best of everything to the rest of your family. I hope your daughter feels better that had the bug this morning.
My kids are very seldom sick. She got a good one.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of bugs going
The
around.
rest of the farm is all about the stones, and it's been for generation and generation. They still make a living.
I have never seen so many stones in my life. Boy, that's hard work.
You know that.
Well, guess what, folks? I hope you enjoy this program. If you have suggestions about future programs, let Calvin know. If you'd like to send him a check for $50,000 to support the program for the next 2 or 3 weeks, he would be grateful to accept that. Thank you all for watching this program, and who knows where we're going to be next time for our little corner.